Try putting the microphone in your...
Like on it?
Yeah.
And now. That'd be good.
Yeah, that's good.
So I'm trying to think of how to make it sound. I like and now, though. Okay. And now. And now. On this episode of The Hot. On this episode of The Hot. You got recording on?
It's recording.
Okay. And now. And now. From studio. The Oven Studios. The Light Oven Studios. The Oven Light Studios. I don't like the way I sound, but I don't know how it's going to sound when I get it ready.
The oven light is on and the studio is hot and ready for our next guests.
So anyway, that's why it should be called the Rhombus.
Oh.
Are we on now?
Nice. Wait.
Okay, I'm sorry. Well, that was an off-air discussion. Sorry.
Hold on. The Bermuda Rhombus. I can't say I know what a rhombus is.
Well, you got a triangle.
Yeah.
And then a rhombus has four sides.
So a square. No, not a square. So a rectangle.
Four unequal sides.
Excellent. So I got it, and then I kept playing along, and then I didn't get it, and then I got it and kept playing along, and so now we're good. Man, so I know that you're in broadcasting. I'm trying to nail down what exactly in broadcasting, and I think that what's confused me is you've done a little bit of everything, right?
Right. So I was in television for over 20 years, out of college to a little production company out of Arlington, and we did certain shows for broadcast. The Budweiser Rangers Report,
Yeah.
the High School Extra on HSE,
Yeah.
the High School Roundup on Channel 8 and 11, and then the Big 12 came along and Big 12 Showcase,
Yeah.
and we produced those out of our office for air elsewhere, which happens a lot in the industry, whether you know it or not. Not every station has their own equipment, even Discovery Channel, everything. There's independent production companies who do that work. Then I went to work for Fox Sports Southwest directly in 2003 and was there until, as a producer, reporter, a little of everything,
Yeah.
until August 2 years ago, or 2017.
Yeah.
Now I'm with, after all those years doing predominantly Big 12 sports, I'm now with the PR marketing advertising agency in Dallas that handles the Big 12, among other clients.
Yeah.
But the National Football Foundation as well. We have Carnival. We have, lots of, like a normal agency, lots of clients. But I predominantly work with the National Football Foundation and the Big 12.
Okay, and what do you do with the National Football Foundation? What does your company do with the National Football Foundation?
We have a campaign called Football Matters.
Okay.
The National Football Foundation has a campaign called Football Matters that we work with them on, and it is basically an awareness campaign.
Yeah.
Everything you hear or read about football, a good half of it maybe, is negative.
And first off, NFL.
Right, true. But I'm saying in the broad stroke of things, there's a lot of negative news out there about football.
And what I mean is this specific to NFL, or is this the term football? Okay.
It's all football.
Interesting.
It is.
So National Football Foundation is
the National Football Foundation is the sort of a governing body over the game. The chair, the board of directors of the NFF is chaired by Archie Manning.
Oh wow.
The board includes Robert Kraft, Jerry Jones, the three of the four of the major conference commissioners, Roger Staubach. I mean, you can look it up. It's a pretty impressive list of godfathers of the game, and we work with them on the Football Matters campaign, which is basically just to counterbalance a lot of
the negativity,
misinformation, not just negativity, but misinformation that's out there.
Interesting. And so, again, to clarify, XFL's new.
Mm-hmm.
Technically, the National Football Foundation, not necessarily over XFL, but they they help to protect that image as well.
Right. The only thing the National Football Foundation is over is the college. They do the College Football Hall of Fame.
Okay.
In Atlanta, and but the XFL is its own entity. I mean, they're their own business.
Yeah.
Now they're kind of they were smart, and people are wondering how it's different from the American Alliance of Football, the AAF. That went a few weeks and folded. The XFL was smart. Well, first they got the financial backing of WWE guy.
Oh, Vince McMahon. I didn't know that.
But they were smart in how they worked with the NFL. Like, we're not trying to compete with you.
Yeah.
We think we can be a viable off-season alternative for a lot of players who want to stay sharp.
Yep.
And the other smart thing they do, besides a lot of the rules and what you see on TV, I think structurally what they did was differently from the AAF. Was the AAF went to all these secondary markets, Birmingham, Memphis, and sort of the AAA cities of America, where the XFL said, no, we want Dallas, we want LA, we want New York, and that's held on pretty good.
Well, I say that market's humongous regardless. So if you're not a direct competitor, there's room.
Right.
There's plenty of room for an alternative.
And how smart was it? The week after the Super Bowl, boom, week 1.
Yeah. Very good.
And the ratings are good. The attendance is good.
2 weeks in now?
Yeah.
And this is the same trademark as XFL 10, 15 years ago, right?
Right.
Just a different
because it's
approach.
the McMahon family is involved.
Yeah. But different rules probably and different kind of.
Well, have you seen a game?
I watched part of a Renegade game when I was at a restaurant.
There are rules experimentations that I think work really well. And going back to...
That's a great point. Experimenting a rule, and then the NFL may go, hey, that was a good idea.
Exactly. And I've heard Troy Aikman speak to that exactly.
Okay.
Like, the NFL needs to take a strong look at this. Look at the kickoff. Traditionally, one of the most dangerous plays in football. You've got high-speed collisions, all that. What does the XFL do? They kick off from the 35, and then you got 10 gunners set up at the other 35. So it seems like a fine line where the returner could break that crease and break free.
Yeah.
No one has yet, I don't think. But it cuts down on the high-speed collisions, makes it a little safer.
Okay.
And the game is doing that. They're doing that very uniquely, but the game is becoming safer.
Yeah, and that's because it will become safer because of this experimental level, more or less, and then people are making money off of it as well.
Right. Well, the game's becoming safer because it has to.
Yeah.
You can have all these people, all they want, who are like, you take away the blindside block. I'll take a kickoff, for example.
Okay.
People are like, that's the best thing about football. On a interception or a kickoff return, the field gets turned around. Some guy doesn't know where he is. Boom, ear hole laid out. That's the highlight. Well, but that guy gets hurt seriously, perhaps. Yeah. Then there's 1,000 kids watching who are like, you know what?
I want to do that too.
Or how about the opposite?
Yeah, the kid doesn't want to get hit because
like,
that's who I was.
Forget that. Or there's parents who are going, if that's what the game is, I don't need my kid around that.
Yeah.
You know what? Fix that rule.
Yeah.
It doesn't affect the game.
Well, I was going to say, you've got the players or kids who say, "Oh, I want to do that to somebody." So now you're their whole purpose of playing the game now is to make that hit. And then you've got the folks that are like, I ain't even going to play if that's the kind of hit that's going on.
Right. And so the aim is to make the game safer through equipment, through the things on the field. There are ways to make the game safer and a lot of rules. There's over 100 rule changes over the last 6 or 7 years. We have them detailed somewhere, but not just in physical contact, but with the clock that moves the game along.
Yeah.
And you see all these measures that move the clock along.
Okay.
Well, guess what? When there's less game to play, there's less contact.
Yeah.
And little things like that. And across the board, from the NFF to the NFL, the NCAA, these universities, everyone knows the game has to become safer.
Absolutely. And so National Football Foundation, that's one of their goals. And Football Matters is the company you work for that helps.
That is our campaign. I work for LDWW in Dallas, a firm, if you will, led by Ken Luce, who is a great guy. And
well, of course your boss is a great guy. I'm kidding.
And he's got the shiniest car in the lot. I guarantee you that. And his dad, you may have, if people have been around Dallas a lot, Tom Luce, former attorney, former on the SMU board of directors for a long time. He was George W. Bush Jr.'s assistant secretary of education. Do I have that right? He was sort of a big deal in Dallas. Not quite like his son. His son hasn't got there yet, but he's
I'm pretty sure we
he's
got
getting
a few SMU Mustangs who might recognize that name. But well, and part of my interest in discussing a lot of this with you is the production aspect. Well, first off, the word saying I'm a producer is interesting because that does cover so many different aspects. I mean, are you just the guy with the money that's paying for it? Are you the guy who's editing it? Are you the guy who, you know, I mean, there's so much to what a production is. I'd love your definition.
Well, just to be clear, I'm no longer a producer.
Sure. But
so
I know you've produced.
But when I was a producer for 20 plus years, you're the organizer, you're the planner, and you're the babysitter. And you're the, I went from reporter to producer. When I was a reporter, I'd do a 2.5 to 3 minute feature story or whatever it was. And I would call the person I want to interview, or the SID, the sports information directors of the school. I want to talk to this person, and then I just get those interviews, and then I would do my little 3.5 minute feature, and then I would hand it to the producer to put on a show. And then I'm done. I'm off to my next story. As a producer, I'm now producing the show start to finish. We want to start here. We want to finish here. We want all these little feature stories like the one that guy just did. We want to do this. We want to have an analyst on. We want to have, what are we going to talk about? Are we going to have, do we need graphics? Do we need, do we want to look at the potential NCAA brackets? Do we want to, we're going to need some video of who do you want to talk about? Who do you want to talk about? This guy. Okay, we need B-roll of him. We need B-roll of these three people. We want to, we got a great interview from this coach. We'll roll that in this segment. You just got to plan out and assemble all the moving parts of a show.
So creation.
Yes.
Even if it's bringing in non-created items or like copying items, you're creating content for a segment. So if that's your responsibility, you're a producer, more or less.
And then the next step is doing live. And for a couple of years, I did Big 12 Live on Fox. We're from 11 to midnight. And it was great because there was always sort of a late ABC game that kicked off at 7 or 7:30, and they would be ending about 10:30 or whatever. And that would be, always our first segment. And that'd be a very quick turnaround. And we could sometimes cheat and pick up, live podium, press conference of all, and there's a different structure in doing, so many shows are different, but in that environment, we had 3 analysts, we had a host, and we had 6 or 7 or 8 games we wanted to talk about. And not every one of them we had post-game interviews. Not every one of them we wanted to talk a whole lot about. Sometimes, some weeks, we wanted to take 2 segments and kind of break it up. And we wanted to take this, this key play in this one game and give it to an editor and have him diagram it a certain way and break it down. And just so many layers that you can go through to make a TV show happen.
And that's the live aspect is like when I record this podcast, we get to go back, give it a listen, apply it to the editor. If we need to, cut something out, make an intro, put an insert of a picture of something we're talking about. We have all the time in the world to make it happen. But when you're going live, I mean, preparation is crucial. What happens when the ball drops and everybody's silent? You got dead air. I mean, you got to have somebody ready.
That's for the talent to worry about, not me.
Yeah, right. Good job.
Do your job, Phil.
That's exactly right, though.
Yeah, but no. The biggest thing as a producer is the clock.
Okay.
And when you're live on the air and you got so many breaks to get in, And so you got to chop up this show into 7 segments with 6 commercial breaks inside of it, and then you got this big clock that ends where you got to be have all this stuff in.
Yeah.
By the time that hits, for us, it was like 11:59 and 45 seconds.
Yeah.
And luckily, there was a couple of times where we went a little over, but the person in master control in Houston who runs all of the shows for Fox. Luckily, nothing was ever really pressing.
Yeah.
There was waiting on the air at midnight. So
right.
they could, if it was joined in progress 10, 15 seconds late, no one missed it.
No. So along the lines of producing and production, so my third guest was a good friend of mine, Jason Smith. Jason Smith runs.
I saw that.
Yeah, you saw that. Okay, good. Jason runs the Firehouse Gastro Park.
Right.
Really cool place. But he started in acting and
I would have never known that.
Right. Okay.
Good. When I saw you had him on, I was like, oh, here's our guy from church who runs the firehouse.
Sure.
And then 20 minutes in, he's been in a movie.
Yeah.
What?
Multiple. I mean, guys.
He's in a commercial. Oh, that's him.
Yeah.
What? I'm seeing all that for the first time.
Well, good. And it's right up his alley, and it makes sense. Super cool dude. But one of the things we were talking about was how, in LA is LA because of the production. I mean, people go there to produce movies. Mm-hmm. They have the infrastructure set up to do just that. Well, now that, one, the country's widespread, and 2, people are living everywhere and there's no need to travel to LA just to produce. If there was some type of infrastructure here in Texas, really anywhere, we've got millions of people to fill it in. I mean, not that we would be the LA, but you could have major movie productions happening right here.
Nothing drove us crazier over at Fox. We're in Las Colinas, than the attitude that came corporately sometimes, where we were very proud of the production work we did, and sometimes it came from LA that we're going to do this. We're going to do this production. And it's almost like you cable boys, one step above Wayne's World.
Yeah.
We take a break on this. We will, our Fox people in LA will handle. Talent is everywhere. And the thing is, you don't need, as you're learning, you don't need a studio. You don't need a green screen. You don't need a lot of fancy lights, especially for something like this. But there is production going on everywhere. You keep hearing about movies being shot in New Mexico, in Louisiana, all over the country, where there's not the labor laws that there are in California and things like that. And you can find talent anywhere.
Yeah.
Talented editors, talented animators. Talent is everywhere. It ain't just in L.A.
Well, and that's the part of the point is the growth of the ability to do that. One, our producer, our editor today, he's learning this in high school. Or when did you start learning editing on Premiere Pro? About 2 years ago. So, I mean, kids 15 years old are learning audio visual, and that's on pace. I mean, that's not like, oh, he's advanced, and I think he is, but learning at that age is becoming a norm.
Right. And realize when I learned in college, I was editing tape to tape. I was, in fact, in college at North Texas, I was editing SVHS to SVHS.
Oh, wow.
It wasn't until I got my first job that I was around beta tape. And then the nonlinear world came along, the digital world, around the late 90s. And I remember we had a Media 100, and that was so state of the art.
Yeah.
And we were editing online and stuff like that. And it took a while. I remember when the Rangers had the first All-Star game in 94, 95,
wow.
when the ballpark was brand new, and Hideo Nomo was in the All-Star game. So all this Japanese media was here, and they brought these digital cameras. You know, Japan was always 10, 15 years ahead of us on technology.
That's funny.
And they brought in these HD cameras and we were all like, that stuff's going to come here someday.
Yeah.
They were so far ahead. It was silly
Not
to
even
think of it
close.
now, of what they were shooting with, to digital cards. They weren't shooting to tape.
Yeah.
And how foreign it was. And to see all these Japanese guys with all this gear, and they were proud to kind of show it off and
Yeah.
all that. But we were still another 5 or 6 years away
Not
from
even-
that going around the industry.
Yeah. That is a common thing. Cameras as well. Japanese is far more advanced in that area, and it may be like we're talking about Axel learning audio visual in high school now. Maybe it was taught younger. I mean, why was Japan so much more advanced?
That's
in a lot
where
of those-
Sony was. That's where a lot of that stuff comes from.
the producers who made that stuff.
Well, it all boils down to electronics.
Yeah.
It all comes down to chips and
Atari, Nintendo,
Mm-hmm.
all of that. Wow. I play the Nintendo sometimes now still, the Switch, and it's amazing the stuff that they come up with. Still, I guess it's even far more advanced now. Anyway, so the audio-visual part, taking a recorded product, making a commercial out of it, is a very serious process. I mean, I got to learn a little bit. Axel's taught me. We did the intro to one of our podcasts, and we took noises I made with my mouth, applied a few graphics, applied a few visual things that we just made up, edited, turned, rotated, and as we looked at the end of it, we're like, my God, we just made that. It's amazing.
And the really incredible part is that it's commercially available. The software,
Yeah.
the computers, 20 years ago, whenever I started, I mean, here was your commercial stuff you could get at Radio Shack.
Yeah.
And then here's the professional stuff.
Yeah.
And that stuff is high dollar.
Yeah.
And no one's going to have that in their home. Now there's no difference.
Yep.
There's no line between the professional grade stuff and what people have at home.
Sure. And even the equipment we're using here, I mean, this isn't grade A. I'd say it's a solid grade B. I mean, these microphones are good microphones. These headphones are good headphones. So yeah, you can get better. But man, your iPad and your iPhone, I mean, people do recordings all day long, podcasts in particular.
Right.
Just plug a microphone into your phone, and you're ready to roll.
At the end of the day, what does the end product look like?
Yeah.
Is it 4K video? Well, so what? It fit in the palm of your hand instead of being this big shoulder mount thing that all the news guys got. What's the picture look like?
Yeah.
That's all that matters.
Yep, when it comes out at the end. Well, that's been fun. That's been my favorite thing about this. One, I get to chat with folks, but two, learning that editing process and you're creating something. I mean, you are making something from nothing. And no matter who you are, that's fun, man.
It's its own artistic medium.
Sure.
And there are editors who are so good at what they do, and it's bizarre to work around what you think is a really good editor, and the way they're able to use animations and use graphics and these little trick boxes that kind of do these transitions and whatever. And then you go across the street and there's someone else doing something else. Like when I went from Fox to where I am now, just the creative guys, I mean, that's all they do.
Yeah.
And it was next level, and it was kind of like, wow.
Well, let's talk about that a little bit. I think you told me you got to go to the college playoff game, right?
I didn't. Well, I didn't go to the
bowl game.
This past year I went to the Cotton Bowl game because I had tickets.
Cotton Bowl.
Yeah.
Sorry. Okay.
But it's I mentioned the National Football Foundation. They're in Las Colinas.
Okay.
And the college football playoff people, they're in Las Colinas.
Oh, I didn't know that at all.
The Big 12 Conference is in Las Colinas.
I had no idea.
And there's this little quadrangle of the National Cheerleading Association, Conference USA. There's this little conglomerate of football people.
Wow.
They're all around. In fact, the Big 12 hosted a big Fletcher Corny Dog kickoff lunch.
Fletcher.
I know the people in my family I don't think so. We don't think so, but maybe not certainly not immediately.
Yeah.
But maybe somewhere down the line. But I helped set that up with Amber, who is the granddaughter of the inventor of the corny dog, as funny as that sounds. And she runs things, helps run things now for the family. But then they had all those groups over, and it was just kind of cool to see all the different football entities in this kind of in the same neighborhood all at once.
Well, and so with Axel learning audiovisual in high school, or a high schooler, we're just using Axel as an example, but the media, the production of audiovisual is so large right now with, hundreds and hundreds of channels and football, different levels of football that, the job opportunity, I'm sure, I don't know if it's, if everybody's lining up to do it or there's a qualification, but obviously it's worth learning it.
You know what? Axel, do you guys have a school newspaper? No. Do you have a school TV station? Yeah. I mean, for the people who grew up in the 80s and 90s.
That's foreign.
I mean, everyone had a school. I was on the school newspaper. I was the editor of my school newspaper. My senior year. Those are disappearing, but now you're getting school TV stations. TV. And that's, it's kind of cool in a way, but it's just odd.
Yeah. And,
I'm still friends with my old high school newspaper advisor.
Okay.
Who from DeSoto. I came from DeSoto, and he was our journalism teacher, and was the yearbook and newspaper advisor. And he's one of those guys. He didn't have kids of his own. His students were his kids.
Yeah.
One of those.
Yeah.
So we've always kept up with him. He's kept up with us.
Good.
And especially while I was in the business, and he always kind of knew where I was. But I remember talking to him recently. Randy Vonderheide is his name, by the way, and we Mr. Vonderheide. We still call him Mr. Vonderheide. I remember asking about he retired, and then kind of sold his house, got an RV, went around the country, and he was said he was kind of back to kind of substituting here and there and helping out with the newspaper, even when he was living in Vegas, kind of subbing on the side and helping with their newspaper. Well, a few years pass, and I say, you still back in the game? You still helping out? He goes, I can't teach journalism anymore.
Really?
I can't teach kids how to be fair.
Ooh. Interesting.
And if the kids don't know how to be fair and see both sides evenly, I can't teach it.
Right. Now, is that because the attitude of the kids, or is it just what they're coming in?
Knows.
Yeah.
But I think it's just a product of where we are.
You can't. There's no doubt about that.
And you can't read. He's like the kids even then, and this is possibly even 10 years ago. The kids, here's this interesting article. Well, is this a left or right paper?
Yeah.
Is this who's this? Who's this writer? Who does he follow? And they just want to, but before they can even read it, they got to know, well, what's this all about?
Yeah. So that's one of my goals of this podcast actually is, so I don't know if I always try to mention it. LIGHT is the acronym: Learn, Inspire, Teach, Entertain. Well, I went back to college. I think it was 2015. I had to take a freshman psychology class. I took freshman psychology class. So 5 years ago, 32-year-old, I'm like sitting front row. I want to learn. Whereas even in college, I didn't care. So this basic freshman psychology class, what sticks out to me the most was confirmation bias. So confirmation bias is a psychological term that when you read an article, you already know what you're going to get from it. And so as you're reading it, you pick up the things that back up what you're already thinking. So right or left, say you're left, and you're going to read an article, and because you already want that article to say something to encourage your left thought, you're going to pick out those things, and this article tells you what you want to hear. same article from somebody who's on the right. And again, I don't care if you're right or left, but they're going to read that article and pick up things that support the right. And it's just because your mind's already made up before.
And we all do it, and it's not just, I mean, it's, it's movies. It's Avatar.
That's a good point.
Okay, here we go with the colonialism and the corporates are bad. Corporations are bad. All right. Here, and you just, all right, where else is this going?
Yeah.
But I think it happens everywhere in culture now, and there's no escaping it.
Right. And so I'd like to, and the reason I bring that up is I'd like to get literally a psychologist in here. They don't have to be famous, rich psychologist, just somebody from UTA that's a master's student or something that can come in, sit down for an hour. And when I learned confirmation bias, it honestly changed. It helped. I still do it, but at least I recognize it and I try to look at the other way. But before I didn't even know what confirmation bias was. And it just was. I just picked up my confirmation. I was biased about whatever I believed and didn't think about it. At least now.
It's hippie liberals like you that the real problem about this.
Hippie, liberal. I often claim libertarianism.
Me too.
And some people don't get that liberal and libertarian are different, but I don't mind what stroke of paint you brush, what brush you paint me with. As long as people understand, I try to be as independent as possible.
Right.
Sometimes I like the hippie thought. We were talking earlier about being content and happy, and that's kind of a hippie aspect. Like
it is,
like just living right now in the moment, and I mean,
love one another, join along, brother, just hand in hand, and here we go.
So there's a lot of folks that would say the hippie is a kind of worthless approach, and they've got their own problems if they're saying that about people anyway. But
as long as they bathe,
right there you go. That's a common thing, man. But yeah, the laid back approach and enjoying right now. I mean, that's going to be a winner every time. So the hippie approach. There's something to that.
Yeah.
Provides a lot. But then the opposite of that is what the ingrained worker who's working 80 hours a week, 90 hours a week to achieve something. I mean, he's the hard worker, right? Providing for his family and succeeding and building things, right? I mean, I don't know if that's all a good thing, right? What are you leaving in the dust?
And that's what life's all about, is going through and finding the balance.
Yeah.
Do I work harder for more money, and what's it going to buy?
Right.
Or do I cut back on the hours, make less money, and spend more time finding this more fulfilling? Yeah.
So I've come across recently an opportunity. I think it would be a good opportunity to make some good money. And I started thinking, and I'd have to adjust some things to make it happen. And I started thinking, I was like, man, I would have to change who I am. I mean, today Cole Humphreys is kind of a laid back guy. I just kind of enjoy the things I'm doing. I'm not poor, don't get me wrong, but the opportunity to make a lot of money kind of came about, and I thought, I mean, I'm still going back and forth on what I should do about it, and I can't get over the fact of like, I think that would change who I am. I think there is a persona. I don't want to be the same person, but there's a persona that I've created for myself where I can give back, I can serve, I can work hard, I can make money, but also, I can start a podcast and I can bring my friends in and talk to them. Can I do all that? And here's another thing. When I make, let's say it's 2 or 3 years worth of work, I make that money. Is it enough?
Right.
Do I want to leverage that to make more money now that I've got to that point?
When I left Fox, I knew that, and I knew it was coming. It's one of those things that's been on the wall forever. That, cord cutting is a very real thing.
Yeah.
And, they were cutting, there was a big let go the first time. And then I was the second wave, and after they were cutting shows. I mean, they were cutting everything. So saw it coming, mile away. So I was always already kind of preparing. And my thing was, do I really want to get in this rat race of I got to go somewhere else and make more money, make as much or more?
Yeah.
Really ratchet it up. I'm at the prime of my life and my experience and all that. Or is it worth maybe even taking a bit of a pay cut?
Yeah. Wow.
To now, personally, in my wife, I'd always been the breadwinner, and my wife was not so much stay at home. She was kind of a stay at home, but she worked part time.
Sure.
Since our first son was born, and she went on maternity leave, she was at home and then working part time. Then the second one came along, and more of the same, part time, and then so we had this theory somewhere along the way when the kids were babies that when both were in school in kindergarten, when the youngest was hit kindergarten, then we could consider whether she was going to go full time or not.
Yeah.
And so this was August 2017, so the youngest was in first grade.
Wow.
So okay, well, honey, sorry, I took the visit to the office today, so so financially, even if I took a pay cut, we would potentially,
there was room there to adjust.
There was room, but I was really all about, I want to find something that makes me happy, and work around good people, and have time to do things I want to do, and not just work all the time and travel. Traveling's fun, for a period, but it can't just be the weekends, the nights, the traveling. And TV was fun when I got out of college, and it's like that's what I wanted to do. And there was I kind of, especially because I went out on such a sour note, and the bosses that I worked for that brought me in, everyone was gone. The shows that I did and I cared about was gone.
Wow.
There was no other college programming.
Yeah.
It was all just our contract teams, the Mavericks, Stars, Rangers, whoever. So all the college stuff was gone, and it's like, what am I doing here? I don't want to be here. Yeah. So so I had plenty of time to think of what's next. And for the first few months after I left Fox, I was the stay-at-home dad.
No way.
I took the kids to school. I picked them up. We did the homework, and I'll that's the only time I'll have with them at that age.
Yeah.
And I don't regret a bit of it.
I bet you don't, man.
Now, Kathy, my wife was working, full time, and it was miserable, and this and that. But she had her bad days. But the timing was perfect. When I got back with where I am now at LDWW. But I don't regret that time. Spent away.
It's amazing all the work and effort you did, and all the doing more or less what you love. Sounds like the most fun was that time with your family and son. And
a severance helped. I should.
Right, okay.
Not everyone has
Let's
that.
Be clear.
This was a very corporate parting of ways,
Good.
And there was, I won't call it a golden parachute.
Well, that allowed
but there was a generous severance.
Good.
That helped make that transition possible.
I got a couple things. So one, your son, I have an immediate liking of him for reasons you understand, and
you share the same name.
Okay, I don't want to say your son's name
Sorry.
on to folks, but same name. Now it's spelled with a K.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So Cole's a little quiet, if you will,
mm-hmm.
And you could tell just heck of a kid. Even with his quietness, he's thinking. I mean, he's up there. He's going on, and so what I found out about him is like, man, he really cares about others, and he cares about what's going on, and you can't get anything past him. And through that quietness was interesting. So I'd always make sure I said hi to him, so he knew. And he always, as quiet as he was, he always said hi back immediately. But anyway, then I noticed how he reacted to his daddy. And I'm telling you, man, good job. You could tell whatever you're doing, he wants to do too. And that takes, I mean, kids, I think, naturally go that way, but to be passionate about that, it takes a good role.
I'll say he's only quiet around other people.
Yeah.
You know, he's louder at home.
So I see myself that. I mean, big crowds, you know, I quiet down.
Yeah.
But when it gets one-on-one,
socially,
you can't shut me up.
Yeah, socially, there's a lot of shyness, and you know, we all have our social awkwardness and this and that. But he's, you know, especially where his age is now, you know, he and his sister both, they don't like big crowds. They don't like around a lot of people, and there's a balance there. We're trying to get past where, you know, let's not be rude.
Right.
Okay, other people are going to say hi to you.
Yeah.
Be sure you say hi back and be friendly to them.
Yeah.
But it's you know, I've never tried to push my interests. Football, you know, I'll always say, hey, Cowboys are on. You want to come watch? And, you know, it's 50-50. Sometimes it's like, nah, no thanks. I'd rather, you know. Now my daughter watches football with me, which is cool.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's funny, all these years of doing these college shows, I've got to sit down and interview and be around some of the great minds of and young leaders. I mean, from, you know, Mac Brown to, you know, this endless list of coaches, but even some of the people who aren't everyday names. I think of Coach Bill Finley, the women's basketball coach at Iowa State, who's a good friend. You know, Sherry Cole at OU. I think of Mark Francis, the soccer coach at Kansas. You know, these people who've come, whose paths I've come along, who have a lot of wisdom. And you know, it's funny how across the board they all have one philosophy, because they all get asked the same questions by parents and stuff. Like, hey, what can I do to get, you know, for my kid? What, you know, my kid, he's 10 years old and you know, loves basketball. What can I do? And it's whether it's Bill Finley, the women's basketball coach at Iowa State, or Mac Brown when he was coaching at Texas or North Carolina, whatever. All those coaches get those questions from parents, and they all have the same response. Let them be a kid.
Yeah, man. Wow.
Let them be a kid.
Yeah.
Because if you don't let them be a kid now, oh well, yeah, you know, but like diet or, you know, what's their, you know, what should they be working out? No. You didn't hear me.
You didn't hear me.
Let them be a kid.
Oh man, it's like it's on deaf ears, right?
And it's like because if
I got it. Yeah, but what kind of diet?
If you don't let them be a kid now, they might get a scholarship and be on my team someday, and then they're ready to be a kid and they become a problem.
Yeah.
And those are the ones you read about. Oh, another one, and it's like, and it doesn't all correlate. Not if you don't let your kid, you know, be a kid, then they're going to be a troublemaker later.
That's not.
But when you see enough of those coaches in the different sports and different schools and different walks of life, they all say the same. Let your kid be a kid.
See, that I feel like that's the like I talk light. That's my mantra here. I hope that people hear that and learn from it. I mean,
well, Mike. Well, I know you. You know, we know he's a basketball player, but he kind of wants to be like run a skateboard, and that's kind of dangerous. And let him. So let him be. Let him be a kid.
I read a book by Malcolm Gladwell called Outliers. Okay, and Malcolm investigated all these success stories and why they're successful, and this is the outliers. So it originated from this story of this town in Italy that no one ever got sick in any way, shape, or form. Just didn't happen. And so why are all these people in this town?
Red wine.
Yeah, sure. And that's what a lot of the things they think. There was actually inconclusive. So one of the subjects was hockey, NHL hockey players. You start looking at the NHL hockey players, and their birthdays are all about the same couple of months, right? So then date back to when junior hockey cutoff level is. So the kids that miss that level and have to wait a year, or their birthday was the day before, whatever it is, they're not So all of the successful NHL hockey players have the same birthday because they started practicing 6 months to a year before all the rest of the players.
I'll have to look at that. One of my good friends is married to a hockey player.
Oh, wow. Very interesting. Amazing sport, by the way. I'm just so glad that it's still pure, right? In the sense that like they still box. It's just amazing that there's something on television, a sport that literally multiple times a game they drop the gloves and just grab each other's shirt and just pound the crap out of each other.
Well, I'm wondering now. Blake Coleman, he just got traded from the New Jersey Devils to the Tampa Bay Lightning.
Wow.
He's married to Jordan Daigle, who was one of my reporters on my show.
Daigle, I was thinking Christian.
Right. Well, yeah, her name happens to be Jordan Daigle. Now Jordan Coleman got married over the summer.
Blake
Coleman. I'd be curious when his birthday is now. And they're expecting a child any day now.
Career stats or career or Wikipedia. There you go. November 28th of 91. Man, I wonder if I got that book in there. It had the chart of when they were born and why.
Well, now I got to look at everyone else then.
Yeah. And it was a 70-80% thing. So obviously there's some players that are just good. And since we're on it, the Beatles, when they were still in Britain, they had this gig that they played 6 days a week, 8 hours a day for like 2 years. So literally, these guys were masters at their craft, and that they date that to the 10,000 hour rule. When you takes 10,000 hours to be an expert on something. Well, for 2 or 3 years, the Beatles are playing 8 hours a day to make money,
and half of that stinking drunk.
Yeah, so, sure.
So they got good at it.
Wow, good. It's just a good point how these guys. You talk about what diet can I have at this age, or how often can I play, or blah blah blah. It's like, man, you know what? If you're good, you're good. If you work hard, you're going to be successful. All those smaller things, man.
Well, if anyone ever wanted to ask, like a major college coach, what can I do for my kid? I hope they tell you what I've heard countless coaches tell me before is like, leave them alone and let them be a kid.
Yeah.
If they want to play 3 sports, let them play 3 sports.
Yeah.
If they're not playing, if baseball is their thing, don't keep them in baseball 12 months a year. They will burn out, and they'll go to college and they'll burn out again.
Yeah, that's a good point. So I was thinking, well, one, before I forget, Grand Prairie High boys basketball right now just won their district. Mm-hmm. They're going to the playoffs next week, the first game against Lake Highlands in Capel maybe, but it's a miracle. Grand Prairie's never been good at basketball. That's a whole nother topic, but the kids sports industry right now is just out of this world, multi-billion-dollar industry right now, and kids are playing tournaments every weekend. Thinking like 12 years old, these kids are playing, and that's the better player. I mean, 12 years old. I mean, the kids are starting well before that, but it's kind of a nonstop deal. And I don't have kids. I don't want to try to tell anybody how to raise their kids, but you taking them out of school even to go to a tournament. Mm-hmm. And I guess again, they're not on the streets. They're not causing trouble. I get it. It's better than other things, but back off.
It's funny you talk about the business of youth sports.
Yeah.
It's funny. Recently, a friend of mine was we grew up together in DeSoto. Now she lives in Southlake. Her son plays for the Carroll Dragons, and she's talking about these recruiting videos.
Yeah.
And who does those recruiting videos and all that? And she's like, "Can you?" I'm like, I wish. I mean, it would take taking a camera and going to the games and all that. But then I just started thinking, cha-ching.
Oh, man.
Yeah, there's a lot of those videos out there, and the recruiting videos, and a lot of them are there's the coaches' videos that are shot from the 50-yard line, and everything's wide and small, but then there's the higher end, 60-second, highlight reel for their Instagram, and that's the kind of stuff that they're looking for, and it's like.
You mean like a parent let's just say, hires me to make a 60-second recruit highlight reel of their child so that a college or...
I don't know if colleges operate that way, but it probably doesn't hurt.
Yeah.
The more you get your name and your...
Well, in a place like... I'm going to say a place like South Lake Carroll. I don't know what's rich or not rich, but like in a high-end town where the kids, I mean, the parents can just drop $500 to somebody to produce a video. It's probably, you're right, cha-ching.
Well, what you need is 3 or 4 parents, 3 or 4 kids on one team, so you're not just going to shoot one kid, but you get a whole bunch of kids. You get a lot, offensive linemen. You get an ISO shot, and finally, by the 10th play, you get that pancake.
Boom!
That's the play. So it would take effort and time, but I'm sure there's guys independently all around doing that.
Yeah, my good friend moved up to Indianapolis, and he started getting into photography, and his 2 girls are in basketball. And all the parents are asking him now, I need that photo, and he's like, I don't mind, but you understand, I spent $2,000 on this camera, so he decided he's going to start charging, and now that's what he does. I mean, he's a principal at a school, and this is separate, but that's what he does. He takes those pictures, they're really good pictures, and then the parents buy them. Pretty cool deal. So before I forget, I want to touch on. So I cut the cable 2 years ago. Okay. A lot of reasons, and that's not what we get into. But one of the reasons I felt comfortable because Dallas Mavericks, Texas Rangers, and Stars at least once a week would play on cable. I'm sorry, on your 4, 5, 8, 21, 27 channel. And I think it was right at that time that they stopped. So first, I'm an idiot. I bought MLB Package, so I'll watch the Rangers on MLB Package. All right, you idiot. You can't watch your local team on MLB Package. So then I cut the cable. Only thing I wanted to watch was sports, and I wasn't watching it that much anyway. So, but at least that'll give me something to do. On Friday nights, I'll put on the game, whatever I'm doing, I'll have the game on. It was Friday Night Baseball. You can't do that now. There's no sports. Except, I guess, like the Saturday or Sunday afternoon game. And
I don't even know how that works because I haven't cut the cord yet.
Well, and so I can recall the Rangers talking about signing more players because the TV money was about to come in. And I started thinking about it. Fox buys the rights. So used to, it was on Friday nights, the Rangers were on KDFI or whatever. No longer.
Right.
So if you think about it for a second, that's 3 hours worth of programming on a Friday night in a baseball season of 6 months. So 6 months times 4, that's 24, 25 Fridays. And how much money do they make on a baseball game selling ads? Is it $1 million? I mean, in a 3 or 4 hour span.
Don't get me started on sales because there's season things where you're an advertiser for the team for that entire season, or there's local breaks where even your insurance company could run an ad locally. There's all sorts of tiers, and it's I'll get lost.
So my point was though that Fox gives the Rangers more money because now they have 24 more nights to show the baseball game.
Yeah, and plus the rights normally go up every year anyway.
Okay, even go up like
the money. They're normally staggered over years, where they give themselves team gets a raise every year.
Yeah, and so they just added 25. Whenever that happened, whenever they took it from public broadcasting that you get for free,
right?
They added 25 nights, which however much money line their pockets, which makes me now for the last couple of years I haven't been able to watch sports regularly.
And it's weird because the Rangers have their advertisers and their sponsors,
and then channel
Fox has their sponsors, and then there's local breaks where if you're watching Fox Sports Southwest in Grand Prairie, you might see a local ad or two that you're not seeing in San Antonio because they can sell their own ads through their individual operator.
Yeah. And you can't buy just Fox. You can't call up Fox and say, even though it's all streaming mostly anyway, you can't call Fox and say, I want to watch your channel and your channel only.
I think Fox Sports has the Fox Sports Go app.
Fox Sports Go.
Which should carry everything on Fox Sports and FS1, I think.
Well, and that's the thing. There are multiple FX, Fox Sports,
Right.
Fox this, Fox that, and none of them I could die. I want to watch the baseball game, man, but I don't want to pay $150 a month to
Right.
do so.
Now, there are things like Sling, which here you have the Fox family.
Yeah.
FS1, Nat Geo Wild, so on and so Fox News, everything else under one Fox umbrella. You can get like the Fox umbrella.
Sure.
Just like you can get the Disney umbrella.
Yeah.
And so on, I think.
Ugh.
But yeah, so one way everyone thinks there'll be a day where all I want is that channel
No.
and I just want to pay for it. I doubt it. It's always going to be packaged because no network is owned. It's just an independent deal. They're very corporate and like
Yeah.
Disney. Disney has 12 channels.
Well, they got me on that. I remember specifically wanting to call up. I didn't have cable. I was moving apartments. I said, okay, I need my ESPN.
Mm-hmm.
I quit watching ESPN a long time ago, but at this point, so I called up the cable company. I said, really, I just want a ESPN. They go, oh, well, yeah, this ESPN, we can get you this. And it also comes with these other 150 channels.
ESPN Deportes.
Yeah.
Like,
But plus all the regular
right.
channels that come that they lead it with one,
Right.
and say, oh yeah, you get all these others with it too. And sure enough, you're paying $100+ a month for. I finally got out of that. The only thing I miss is my sports. I wish that I could have if nothing else, I just want the Ranger game on while I'm at home doing whatever else, so I can look over at it. But man, you can't do that.
Well, and the technology's there, and we're probably not far from a day where the Rangers, these teams that have their own networks, like the Yankees.
Mm-hmm.
Yankees essentially took their own, now they call it the Yes Network,
Yeah.
and all that, but there may come a day where, just like a college, or a conference,
Yeah.
we'll do our own production. The Big 12 network, SEC network, half of what you see or more is because production is who's running the cameras and the switchers, and that's
Yep.
where all the money is.
Yep.
And for like the college networks, more than half of those productions are done by the schools. You
Yeah.
have, some paid positions. A lot of those are students running cameras, things
Wow.
like that. So that's why
Cheap labor.
so that's why they're able to kind of get by with a little cheaper production there instead of paying a network $50,000
Yeah.
for one game.
Yeah.
So
So potentially the Rangers could produce and distribute, and you could just order to call the Rangers up and say, I want to watch every Ranger game. Okay, that'll be X amount of dollars a month.
I say, why not?
Yeah.
Now, the thing is, can they make the money?
Yeah. Is
that-
it profitable?
That Fox is already paying them, or whoever.
Yeah.
Take the other network, whatever they're paying them for those rights.
Yeah.
Can we take it in house and make the same money or more?
And that's the thing with the advancements in audio, visual, and the stuff that we're doing, you figure it's more common practice.
Well, you can cut down on the production cost, but what's the money you're going to make back?
Yeah.
Because whatever distribution method you have, an app or whatever,
Yeah.
what are you going to charge? $10 a month on that?
Right, because they're already making their money from Dr. Pepper, so they can't go back to Dr. Pepper and say, let's get more money out of this,
Again,
right?
Sales.
Yeah.
I
God.
was around those guys all the time, and they're brilliant at what they do, but I know I barely get any of it.
I know, man. It's insane.
But it's when the teams figure out how to take it in house and make the same money or more than just having some network cut them a check and say we'll handle all the dirty work. Just here's our check. That's the challenge.
Yeah, I can see the ease in that, and just being a multi-million-dollar organization, I'm surprised that's not happening faster. I mean, somebody who's just starting up, it's so much easier to say, hey, you handle this aspect of it, and they do it well. They've done it for years. That they're the pros.
And now the teams have most of the control anyway.
Yeah.
We'll approve the announcers. We'll approve this and that. We'll have our people in the truck doing this and that. So,
and a lot of those, like Emily and Mark McLemore, they work for Fox or they work for the Rangers.
Mark is just when he's a pre and post game analyst, he's working for the network. He's working for Fox.
Yeah.
Emily works for the team.
See,
and she started out, working for Fox. I've known Emily since she was in Lubbock.
Wow.
But she was working with us and then got hired by the team to be their dugout reporter. Well, Keith, I think we've been doing this almost an hour now, and I don't want to press. This is all good stuff. My hope is you'd be wanting to come back and do something else sometime. So there's so many things we said we were going to discuss that we didn't.
We didn't even get close.
So we left plenty of meat on the bone.
Yeah, man. So
and I'll say I know 100 guys. I know 100 people who would say, one of these days I'm going to do a podcast, man. I'm going to have you on and we're going to riff for an hour.
Yeah.
And then
nothing.
Only one I know who's got guess what? I got a bunch of mics and a bunch of other things. I got a podcast. How about we come on for an hour and riff?
Yeah.
So you're one of those doers, man.
Yeah, I love it. I've got a this is, I won't get too far off, but that relates to something, and I always try to be a sponge and listen. But these old hunters that I hunt with, they'll just kind of run their mouth. You think of hunting sometimes, especially in the camouflage and the old beat up truck. You think of rednecks, really, right? Well, two guys I'm talking about. One's an attorney who's sues insurance companies when they deny claims, right? So they're like helping the everyday man by standing up to the big money conglomerate, right? And the other guy it's done multiple jobs, but at that point I think he was he sold back braces. So when people had back surgery and were dying, he went in and suited them for their back brace. I mean, these are just top of the line smart dudes. Anyway, the joke is they just run their mouth a lot. They get down at the deer lease and get to relax and drink whiskey and enjoy each other. And he said they always talk about, he said, I'm going to do this, I'm going to go do this. And they always say, there's two types of people in this world. There's talkers and there's doers. And you're just a big talker, man. You talk too much. Yeah. And so I've taken that as whenever I talk about things, I try to catch myself. Am I just talking about it or am I going to do it? And I did a few podcasts with other people, and I just thought, that is so cool. Mm-hmm. I like the headphones help you. I think partly I might be deaf sometimes. So in conversations without the headphone, it's a little bit tougher for me. Mm-hmm. But when the conversation's on, I'm ingrained. I know exactly what's going on. I can hear every word you're saying. So
and it's good to just turn the phones off.
Well, that's the other thing.
And shut everything off and just say, we're going to do this for an hour.
Hey, outside of sleep, how long are you not looking at your phone? I mean,
I'm glad that Apple just recently did that. They track how much time you put, and every weekend. I think it's on Sunday. I get my weekly alert, and it's like your screen time was down 15%. Attaboy.
I love that. I get that notification before church.
I do too. Yeah.
So when it's up, I'm like, okay.
What did I do?
Lord, please forgive me. All right, Keith, we'll call it, man.
Thanks, Cole.
Talk to you soon.